Welcome back, founders, solo founders, and GTM operators. Look, in this video, I was going to talk through a couple of things around GTM, and specifically GTM or go-to-market components. I was going to walk you through like a presentation and some illustrations, but I thought, you know what? Let me build an app to explain this. And so if you're watching this, you go, and I'll put this in the show notes. If you go to GTM, we can go to the sprint one, right? Components, you see there, components, and dot GTM sprint dot run. You go here, and that's a subdomain of my site. And here you'll find a really quick summary of what it requires as a solo founder, what are the sort of components of a go-to-market GTM engine. And look, when you're a solo founder, you're starting out, you've got an idea, you're building it out, you've got a minimal viable product. You probably will be pivoting here and there along the way, if the product, the offering, the ICP. But what I wanted to do is walk you through, firstly, the core components or the pieces of GTM. Okay, and you can do this in your own time as well. You can visit the site. And then we're going to talk about how you've got these components, how do you put into action? What are the action stuff? So that's why the sprint comes into play. And the final thing is what are the motions and channels that you're going to do? And last thing you got there is a checklist, okay? So you can actually go ahead and do that. In this section here, what we're going to do is we're going to use we're going to run an experiment. We're going to go to and find a site and run that sprint for us. It generates a sprint, so you can generate a sprint. Okay, let's go into this. So turn raw product insights into repeatable revenue machine. That's what, in a way, what's it about when you're talking about GTM. Go to market is you got a product and you've got some insights around this product. So you want to actually find what often called problem solution fit. And when you have problem solution fit, and you validate it many times. You can validate it is you go out and speak to customers, often called just customer discovery. You get product market fit, and that's where you've got the terminology of product market fit, where VCs typically want to come into, right? Because you've proven it out, you've got traction, as I said, which is most important. I would say, any startup, any component of this, and this is why I say start with the ICP. You need traction. If you can demonstrate traction, it means you're solving a real problem. And this system guides you, solo founders, from initial discovery, which is customer discovery, to the high velocity scales. And so you can scale something that is grounded by testing your assumptions. And there's a lot of books on there. Running Lean is a great one. Running Lean. This book here, I strongly recommend. You can get them on Amazon, and I don't have affiliate. Running Lean is a good one. And Eric Ries is also Lean Startup. There we go. See, and I actually got all these books. Eric Ries, and this is a business model canvas. So basically structures your thinking and how you should test your assumptions of your business model. So a business model, if you go here, let me just go here. Business model canvas. Oftentimes when used, there's a lot of them now. It's a way to structure. Go here. A way to structure your thinking. And put those into, where is this? It's a way to structure your thinking, so you can actually, each components of the business model canvas, I don't know why it's taking so long, is assumptions that you test. So in this case, Netflix, these are the components of the business model canvas where you need to test eventually. You start with your value proposition to your customers. You start that and that. Then you test the channels, which one's working. Then you test, okay, what's my revenue structure and how I price it. And then how do I support that customer? Then it's here, resources, what I need to actually enable future scale. And what are the activities that I need to do ongoing to maintain that value proposition to the customer? Who are the key partners I can start, either being a supplier to, or as a partner to, as in selling. What are my cost structures? How I should start optimizing my business. Okay, so I know I'm off tangent here, but these are the components which these bullet points are essentially assumptions that you go and test because you're not too sure. They say the value proposition in Netflix here is content library, no ads, which has changed now. on demand, right? Like there's a high speed connection. I don't know about the high speed as a value proposition. I guess streaming, high speed connection, or say resolution. I guess, yeah. Anyway, so nothing about this. Go back to the components. The components of a GTM are essentially this. We start with the ISP. Let's just explore this, okay? So before I do that, look, so define narrow. You need to define the most narrow segment of ish you want to target first. Of course, you can expand. You've got wild ideas, but if you want to test this as a solo founder, you need to go really narrow and test it. And you can test multiple narrow segments if you wanted to. But the important is you really understand that market and then scale other agents adjacencies if appropriate. But it's important for initially define a very narrow segment that you can directly reach. Oftentimes, oftentimes, um, it could be why domain experiences are important. So if you're a real estate agent, you have domain experience and networks. If you're in law, you have domain experience and networks. This is where you can directly, if you've got a solution in the legal field, we can go and speak to other lawyers in your field. If you got in real estate, you can go and speak to other real estate agents or property tech, and you do you know what I mean. So really, typically when you find a solution that no one's solved for in your domain, often it's a really good sign that you found something because they're often like deep problems. Anyway, let's explore this. Narrow first. Real companies, not personas. And when I say real companies, I also say real companies and titles. What you want to do is these are the companies I want to target, and these are the titles in the companies I want to target. Right? You can talk about personas, but they're not they're paper, but paper really for me it's all about who am I targeting in the company. Like this helps you with your TAM and SAM when you're trying to evaluate the size of the opportunity because who are similar customers or companies I can target. Then so you've got your companies and then the titles or roles that you're trying to solve for, and their pain points, and that's who you go and validate, right? Um, Start where urgency really exists, not nice to have. This is oftentimes called the pill versus the vitamin. You really want to give them a pill, something that they would, by introducing that solution, removes a lot of the pain. It could be speed, it could be reduced risk, it could be efficiency, it could be customer experience, whatever that they really need it. They see that and they go, "Wow, will save a lot of time. This will generate a lot of revenue for me." So that's why it's not. You basically in the book. If you go back to this book, which again are running lean, he talks about how when you interview customers, because this is when you interview customers, you really want to understand their reaction. If they say, "Yeah, that's great. I'd be interested in hearing more," but it's different than say, and even the way they talk, right? It's different to say something like, "Hey, I love this when it's available. I love to be a part of pilot." That's a stronger validation than, "Yeah, sounds interesting. Tell me more." But if they say, "Tell me more," but I also want to be part of that pilot, if you're run or I want to be part of the MPP, a minimal viable product, that's a very strong validation. Okay, so next one is messaging. Messaging is really around, well, how are you going to position this? What are the pain points you want to highlight? How do you speak their language? So pains of the narrow segment. Really, you want to start with their pains. You understand their domain, you understand their pains, and you want to say how you basically came up with the idea to solve that pain. Use their language, not you're using their language, not marketing buzz, right? And focus on the cost of inaction, which is basically if you don't have this product, imagine what would happen to your lives if you didn't have this product. And so you really want to sell the value proposition here, which is pretty much the next component here, right? So if I go back here, and one outcome, not a bundle of features. I really strongly feel that if you got a minimal viable, sell one feature. This is a classic Apple technique when they advertise. They sell one feature, the phone camera. That's all they sell. I mean, there's a whole other features, but they sell one thing at a time. So and it could be one feature or outcome per segment if you're chasing multiple segments, but you've got to be very narrow in those segments. Describe this is perfect. So what would the impact? This is actually in a value proposition, oftentimes a link to your mission statement or value, a mission. Describe life after the problem is solved using your solution. This is how different it is. This is how what it solves. If it sounds generic, if it sounds generic, it is. So you're going to be really, really deep in your the way you explain how you solve the problem. So you don't want to be another nice to have. You don't want to be like, hey, I can do that with my spreadsheet. Okay, so and these are the pillars that you must master as a founder. Offer is basically your pricing and your package. How you going to, how you going to offer this value proposition, the SaaS product or the service that you have. Match how the customers perceive the value. If you, and this is where testing comes in. Pricing testing is critical. When you're starting out, you don't know the pricing, but you need to, work through that out by testing. You might have, you might run ads. You might have cowords where this bunch of 10 call out or telephone conversations, you will have this price, and another 10 you will have this price, and see which resonates. This actually gives you a right strong indication of value. This is what the perceived value is. Okay, few options, faster decision. Like I said, when you're giving them, if you say, hey, your pricing structure is really complicated, you're gonna go multiple tiers and stuff, it's gonna make it more create dissidence, kind of dissidence. And you don't want that. You want them to say, that's quite simple. It's free type of pricing, free freemium, or a $10 a plan, $10 a month, and or $30 more, whatever that, free components. Oftentimes that there is a whole thing around the free components when you're pricing. That's the behavioral economic side of things. So you want them to make a fast decision, because these are the options you have. So don't give them too much options. Just give them maximum 3 when you're pricing it. And anchor pricing outcomes and not effort. Oftentimes you want to demonstrate the outcome or the value that's going to generate, not the effort, if that makes sense, right? So what value it brings to the customer. And you can anchor it by using an example where you might find another product they're using or service and using, and how it solved the problem. You can anchor their figure. But you want to position your product slightly different. Positioning also comes into messaging, where oftentimes you can think of Clay, for example. What they did a positioning. They actually created go-to-market engineers, like the role. They positioned it. This Clay product is for this segment, which is a combination of RevOps and marketers, growth marketers, but they've actually created a whole role. So you can see job ads saying GTM engineers. They created this category. Now, so you got this, right? You got now you're clearly who you're targeting, what message you're going to come, why is it different, what the offer is. And now remember, the offer can also be, especially when you're starting out, a pilot offer. For minimum time, we're running a pilot. We love to join, and it's free pilot or paid pilot, whatever, but you retain the IP. Okay. The sales funnel is, well, how do you navigate the person once they discover the value and it's actually providing value, like time to value oftentimes. Each step answers each step answers one buyer question. So it's like think of a funnel as like top of the funnel when they're making it aware of your product, then they consider your product, then they purchase your product. I mean, there's multiple layers of sales funnel, but the whole idea is each step you're answering them. You might, in the beginning, you might talk about their problem, but in the mid funnel, you might talk about use cases, customer cases, that how they've solved for that, right? So they can picture their solution, your solution in their environment. No dead end. Always a clear next action. At the end of at the end of any conversation, you want to have a clear actions. Should I follow up? Should I follow up with this conversation? Are you interested in me preparing a pilot structure for you? Is anyone else I should talk to? So, right, you want to continue the conversation. Shorter cycles shorter cycles beat perfect decks. What this is all about is you don't have to go overboard with presentations. Show demo. That's much more effective if you can. We'll follow it on with some presentations as a follow up. A sales funnel is each step answers one buyer question. That's all. Think about that, right? So at the top of the think when they're sort of aware of your solution, you just want to say you want to be problem aware. How then you go into solution aware. Then you go into consideration, how it solves those elements of the funnel. Channel, as you say here, is another way of engaging, right? How do you talk to these? How do you engage to this segment? High intent environments where your target customer. So basically, here, high intent is if they're doing Google, you might do a paid search, right? Paid because paid is qualified leads. They're literally searching. I need a solution, like a scheduling solution using AI or something like that. I need. But they'll probably most likely chat GPT or Gemini. They long string, and you might look. This is where content comes into play, right? On your website, but high intent environments where your target customer searches. Now, when I say searches, they're also going to events and conferences. You might like to attend that. You know, they don't necessarily present; it could be expensive, but you might like to attend that. You might like set up a casual meetup around this because it's where they're more interested. There's high intent. If somebody comes to your free meetup around a particular topic where you're giving sort of value, that's a really good sign of high intent. Searching on visiting your website is another high intent, right? So how do you take these high intent environments and create channels which you can convert, which goes back to your sales funnel. Pick one channel and master it. I think as a founder, you start with your as a founder led. I mean, you do cold outbound, email, telephone, face to face, meetups and stuff. That's the most important because you want to get that feedback. Um, Prioritize loops over linear. Loops is important. Basically, you try to learn, go back and learn, go back and refine. Refine the, when I say loops here, you go back and refine the ICP, you find the message. I mean, many times we refine the message. We're still refining the message when we started Hiree. The value proposition, you might find we changed so many times the value proposition. We discovered more insights from actual customer discovery, what we're actually solving. So this is what prioritize loops with channels, meaning that you might find that these couple of channels work very well. You continue to use that to validate. No, this whole process is all about validation. Okay, so these are the components. These are the core components that drive. There's many different takes on this, but these are the most important, right? And I prioritize in order. And so really your ISP, your messaging, value position, then you get into your channels in your offer. Okay, so now we're going to go into sort of how do you generate a sprint to validate these core elements, because you're validating all these components, right? So this is what this tool does for you. We're going to simulate one, right? Okay, so let's use an example on this, right? I want to, I don't know if you heard of Gumloop. There's another like automation, drop and drag, and there's valid proposition. Let's just complete this, right? So their valid proposition, I'll just paste it in here. It's basically, if you can see here, the valid in drop and drag builder with they've got these nodes that you can connect. It's very similar to N8N in terms of a little bit simpler in a way because there's all web flow. It's like a flow chart. It's very very simple. So I just added it, but they have a lot of nodes that you can connect to, or in one place. So we're going to use that. I'm going to put their URL, of course. Let's drag it. So this you can try it yourself. Okay. So put in your company, your ID. Just put in. I'm going to just copy in this Gunloop because it's going to search on that as well. I will search on your website. I would say marketing. Okay. And RevOps. Okay, let's generate this, and this generates your sprint, your 90-day sprint that allows you to take this, and there we go. This is your your first 2 weeks, then your week 3 where you're testing, and then you scale what's working. So let's quickly go and dive into this. Okay. So identify the 5 frictionless points. So you want to, this is your messaging and the use cases that you want to do. The a competitive value or proposition, develop a metrics on why, how it's cost savings. This is all about getting clarity. So remember, it's ISP, getting clarity over the ISP and getting clarity over the segment and the messaging you see there, right? So update the core messages, no hidden fee. I said there, the value proposition, specific targeting for marketing ops. Okay, so this is you're setting it up. You're setting up basically the test, how the use cases you want to test, the messaging you want to test, and the ISP who you want to test with. Right, this is again week. And then the second is you run the campaign because you say, and I've got if you go into my site, you can use for free. There's no, you just have to log in, but I've got these apps here. This one here that does it for you, so you can track your activities. Okay, so you can go in there and log in. There's another video I'll talk about that. This is a basic. You might use a LinkedIn organic page. You might create a 15 pre-build templates for RevOps. Okay, you're testing that, so you have a library for marketing ops, RevOps, right? You might do a direct outbound cold. So this one will be a personalized outreach to 100 mid-market RevOps teams, offering a guide to set them up, and maybe even offer. This is the offer. Remember I talked about this is the offer. So it embeds it all in. The offer could be just templates designed for them. Okay, so it's, because one of the drawbacks, I guess, is just how do I build these workflows and stuff. So that's what that is. And then the final week is really in the final stage when you're scaling, when you know what's working, you establish partnership with agencies. This is where you go, okay, I'm going to scale. I know it works. I've got proof that I've got traction. You might find other companies or partners that actually support the same segment, but you're offering new value proposition. This is where you also invest in a lot of automation, increasing your budget of high intent. So you use a lot of automation to help you create those inbounds. And this is also SEO work, because now you know what use cases work. You're going to write about those use cases, and that's what this is around. So while scaling content, because why content is important. Large language models, Google searches bring starting to type, RevOps workflows. You want to be picked up. And that's qualified. That's a highly qualified organic search. And then you can use some of these customers that you've got here in your testing as social proof. So you can actually use that to do outreaches to build that credibility and build your personal brand, but also the brand authority in your space. Okay, so that's how you run a sprint, and you can run it. You can come here and run the multiple. And these last one I just want to highlight is the channels. Now this is super important, and I always say start here. This was bold here. You as a founder, it's got to be founder-led outbound. You got to do it. You got to why you got to do it. Handpick your customers. Find the outreach you want to. High intent signals feedback. Use that feedback to determine all these components. This is why it's founder-led motion is important. I strongly recommend, if you can't outsource this, you got to send the email, you got to call them, you got to go to the meetups, you got to go to the conferences and learn as much as possible and pitch your idea. Like this is what you call a hustler, right? In the startup terminology. Okay. And then you got these are the different signals, but this is fundamental, right? Signal, like these are signal triggers. We talked about them. When you start looking at when to start sending out emails, how to personalize your hooks. These are all scale items, and you might combine them with a digital inbound. So this way, your content based on your sprint that you've learned a lot and you've added content, you can start creating content around that. Slower to start, then stronger to scale. So this is a long play because especially SEO. But you can run these campaigns and start automating a lot. And again, I've got another solution that helps you with that. So if you go to content here, this generates a whole, content studio. This generates a whole 1 year's worth of content in a flash. So you go there, I covered it in a different video. It creates a whole based on your themes, looks at your value proposition, it creates themes for you, and then so you can build authority around those themes, and it creates the content and images, okay? So you can go there. And then if this is a product-led SaaS, so if you're a SaaS, especially mid-market or B2B in a mid-market range, where the product itself is informing you how to do your next step. The product data. So if people are abandoning, there's hand raises you want to re-engage. There might be those people who have actually signed up for free. How do you convert them into paid? So this is all about looking at things like self activation. So how do you convert those people who've already to go up a plan? Um, fast time to value. This is basically if they sign up, they can actually use the device, the value proposition straight away. Usage based expansion. So basically, this is the classic where you do a lot of tools. You use one feature, then it unlocks new features you can upgrade. But this is what I'm saying is product-led growth is where the product itself informs your roadmap, informs what you should do next. There's a hybrid of it as well, where you have a combination of salespeople and you've got also the product. So you might have enterprise where you got salespeople, human, and then you've got self activation for more of the lower end um, pricing structure that you might have. Product qualifies, human converts. This is what, so you can use hand raises and you can have sales team to go out and do it nicely. And if you go to my website, you've got like a 24/7. Try this. It's a virtual assistant. You can do outbounds on virtual. This is I'm using retail retail AI as a voice agent I've created for outbound, inbound, and so forth. So you can automate that. But this also so that's the human assistant to close, especially for enterprise. Focus on effort and on best. Focus on focus effort on best fit accounts. Basically, account based. You might go into an account based marketing approach, and you might have your tiers, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, where it's most appropriate for your segment. Again, a lot of these stuff are getting scales at the scales, but you've got to pick one. And if you're a solo founder, and this is what you'll be doing. The last one is where it's working, you've got content, is you're looking at partnerships. And that's where they need all like this. They need the validation that you've got case studies, you've got the product in a stable, it's grown and it's stable, because they're going to start selling it as well, right? Powerful ones run at scale, super powerful for partnerships. So channel led in a way. So you're moving so you can see how it's going from getting more complicated, right? From founder led to channel led. That's what oftentimes you can scale really fast. Canva is classic. Now they've got a lot of channel partners that actually embed their solution in all their in their products. In like they've got channel partners that actually embed Canva in their solution. I mean, ChatGPT, OpenAI, they're now embedded into watches and using that as their channel partners as opposed to going direct. Okay, well, the last thing I just want to quickly off is your checklist. So this is a checklist you can use. So again, focus on getting your top 25 accounts. Super important. You want to focus really very back onto the ish, very specific. Can buyers describe the pain without my help? Can buyers describe the pain without my help? So this is a checklist for you to say, can they describe the pain? It's self-explanatory. Is my offer outcome based? Am I showing them that if they do this is what is going to happen? Is my pricing simpler? Again, remember we talked about don't make it complicated, at least initially, because you're learning along the way. And make sure you have clear next steps. Whatever you're doing your sprint, or you're at this funnel stage, clear actions, because once you validate something, you need to say, what do we do next? All right, that was a long video, half an hour. Guys, hopefully if you enjoy this video, please like, subscribe, because it helps me and build all this stuff on my own. And so I want to share my knowledge to you guys.